This On, Season 4, Episode 34, where we watch Knife or Death. I'm Chris Lorenz.
Noah Singer.
Mei Ing.
Brian Houston.
Welcome, May. First, another guest to the pod.
Woo.
Welcome to Doppelganger Month,
Oh.
where we watch spin-offs of shows we've already watched. Brian, what is this a spin-off of?
This is a spin-off of Forged in Fire, the show where amateur blacksmiths got to go compete making knives and stuff out of crazy things.
Yeah. So this is another History Channel show. Noah, can you give us the description of the show?
This show. Each competitor takes a time to run through our obstacle course of challenges that test strength, hardness, sharpness, and the blade's potential to inflict maximum damage, all in front of a live audience. Who can do the most damage and complete the most obstacles in the shortest amount of time? And who will be crowned Knife or Death champion? That's Forged in Fire, Knife or Death on the History Channel.
Thank you, Noah. So this show is just Ninja Warrior, but with a knife.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all you really need to know.
That's how they pitched it, for sure.
This is definitely like when you walk into the pitch room, imagine, Facebook, but for cats.
Yeah.
This is, what if it was Ninja Warrior, but Forged in Fire
Yep.
with knives?
What if Forged in Fire and Ninja Warrior had a baby?
I'd love to see us, well, we'll get into it later, but just like a real combination of the two would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
So essentially, what happens in the show is there's obstacle course A, and they have 6 people go through obstacle course A, which is called Knife Fight, which is a very weird name. And then the top 2 people go on to obstacle course B, which they called, what the hell? Dead Run is what they called obstacle course B.
Not a weird name.
I definitely think knife fight didn't feel right because you feel like they're actually fighting,
Yeah.
but they're really just chopping things.
Yeah.
Maybe like chopped would have been better.
Oh.
I don't think I can use that one, though. So the winner is the person that did the second obstacle course the quickest, and they get to win $2,000, everyone, and the opportunity to win $20,000 in the finale.
Let's be clear. This is still History Channel. Like, the fact they're giving away $20,000 is mind-boggling to me.
I mean,
I don't think it's that shocking.
All right,
Pretty
let's-
much every standard show at this point has some level of money involved.
But how much do you think History Channel's pulling in?
I mean, they're probably getting the ratings, so
To me, the decision has to be is it pride or a prize? And at $20,000 or $2,000, the prize is so small it makes it a bit comical. Where it should just be about pride, and they should have like a really cool belt or
like
a
you
trophy.
could give them $20,000, but like it should just still be about like you get to be the Knife or Death champion.
Yeah, instead of celebrating like you could win $20,000.
What's the prize in Forged in Fire, Brian?
It was like $10,000 an episode, I think.
Yeah. So I guess it's still on the same vein because you're in 2 episodes, you win $20,000 if you win, but you got to outcompete like 12 people,
Yeah.
which is gonna be hard.
Even for an episode, 10,000 seems better than the 2,000.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
the 2000 seems like a joke. Not even mention it.
Right, like the show, yeah.
Goldberg should never have said that. It's like
Right.
you win, you get to compete for 20,000.
Right.
they
that would've been
probably
great.
should have just said, if you win, you get to move on. And then just say the 20,000. The 2,000 seems like chump change. But I mean, really, it's just like, oh, look, I went on TV and I made it through this whole thing. That's probably more exciting than the 2,000.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you blow your entire budget on ice people.
And we mean ice, not ice people. Ice people are a protected class.
Ice people that are involved with the ice. When you got a guy for ice, he's the ice
Yeah.
people.
He's the ice people.
The ice is very minimal cost compared to the people who are making this ice and the equipment to make these giant blocks.
Brian, you're skating on thin ice.
Oh. All right, so let's go through the obstacles of the first obstacle course here. We got Knife Fight. So the first one we have is trifecta, where they have to cut 3 objects in half, which are like blocks of wood. So like 2x4s and like a rope, like a 2-inch rope. That seems quite difficult. Like if you told me to go and cut through like a 2x4 with a knife, I would have like it would. It's really hard to do.
Nobody's practicing that shit.
Yeah, and
These people are. You know that.
Oh, they are practicing, and the 2x4s are not in between vices, right? So the 2x4s are hanging by chains, suspended in air. So every time you hit it, it wobbles, it moves, which makes it much more difficult.
Yeah, and it's not like you're cutting it lengthwise or like with the grain. You're cutting it against the grain. So you really have to get like there's a technique that the like good competitors use where you cut like one part at one angle, you cut the other part at a different angle. So you're like going back and forth so that eventually you get through. Whereas if you keep cutting at one angle, you're just like, it literally doesn't go through. It took somebody like 6 minutes or something to get through this challenge because they were just doing it like the way you'd assume you would do it, which you just cut it.
And there was a guy who was using just pure brute force, which actually broke the apparatus. And so the wood wasn't actually fully chopped. It just came apart. And I mean, they got a penalty for it.
So that is a big thing with the show is penalties.
Oh yeah.
So you get 30 seconds for a penalty, which is like not completing the task, which here was not cutting and breaking the apparatus, or you could just walk away. You could just not do it. So that was kind of interesting.
Which is a pretty smart strategic move if you know you didn't bring in the right knife for that challenge.
I think people should have used this more.
Yeah.
But
Especially on the next thing that you will eventually bring up.
yeah.
Well, can I say a quick thing? So this obstacle showed up in season 1. We watched season 2, episode 2.
Oh yeah, did I mention that? I feel like I forgot.
But that rarely came up in season 1 versus now season 2. It's your very first obstacle.
Oh, this was one of the end obstacles?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It definitely seems like more of an end obstacle. But it seems as a starting obstacle, you have a lot of energy to do it.
Right.
Which we'll get into as we get further into this challenge is like people are, they get pretty tired running this. So like it kind of makes sense to make this like an earlier challenge while you still have the energy to like knock at a 2x4 or like.
And then you might get sloppy later when you're not. You might get sloppy later when you're not like, I don't know, doing something so hard. I'm trying not to go over all the challenges before we've gotten there.
So box cutter is the next one. So they have 2 boxes suspended from the ceiling that kind of sway back and forth. You have to cut it completely in half.
They're like wood crates that
Yeah.
actually seem pretty thick.
They're like wood
yeah.
crates you see in a video game. You could actually see how much it would actually take to break.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
And it's hard. Like some of these people are like big burly dudes and they're taking a lot of time to break these boxes.
And
There
Or-
was one really small girl. She was 95 pounds, swinging this like sword, really thin sword, and she didn't even make it past the box cutters because she was just winded by the time she finished the first challenge.
Yeah,
Boxes are moving.
Yeah.
It just makes it that much
Yeah,
harder.
so like we'll get into her. We'll go by competitor
okay.
after we're done the challenges. But like, yeah. So this one definitely the swinging makes all of these things so much harder because they're not just stationary like you'd expect when you're trying to chop something in half.
Right.
It is just not something you'd expect to do. Just like Ninja Warrior, where you're going through these obstacles, like you're not hanging yourself by like your fingertips, like
Right.
for an extended period of time. It's just not happening. So you actually have to train for this stuff. After the box cutter, we have the decapitator, which is you cut 3 ice blocks.
No.
Oh
No,
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 that's,
decapitator
next one,
is
sorry.
cutting 4 pieces of fruit, 3 different fruits. So they had them cut 4 onions all in a row. So like the challenge is you have to try to actually cut all of them, so keeping your knife level. So it was 4 onions, 4 butternut squashes, and 4 watermelons.
The onions are really hard.
Oh yeah.
I think there was only one competitor that actually finished the entirety of the onions.
I don't remember,
Did they
but
eat-
I
yeah.
believe so.
It was really hard because I mean the onions aren't super big.
No, they were small onions for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, definitely compared to a pineapple.
Yeah. Oh, right. They're pineapples, not watermelons. I was wrong.
Yeah, then we have Thrice. Sorry. Thrice is the 3 ice blocks where we need our ice people to get us the ice. These are pretty clear ice blocks, so they're not like somebody's involved with these for sure. Then we've got Lifeline, which is cut 3 hanging objects, which was a chicken, a salmon, and a rope not attached to the floor. So once you touched it, it started moving. And this is the obstacle that killed everyone but 2 people. Or not everyone, but most people.
Yeah, and if you fail to chop through one of them, you only have 1 stroke per. And if you fail it, then you're out.
Yeah, so a lot of people just ended their run here. Whereas, like, if you didn't cut the boxes in half, you weren't out. This is the first time where if you failed, you're out.
Yeah.
Funny enough, last season, everybody had problems with the fish.
Really?
And now everyone was crushing the fish.
Fascinating.
Nobody had the technique.
Interesting. Wonder if this is one of those things where, like, they've watched the previous season. They're like, oh, got to pay attention to this. But no one got to the rope, so they didn't know that the rope was going to be the problem. So now, next season, people will go through the rope.
Yeah. Or I was thinking a lot about the heights as well of the different obstacles, like, especially for the trifecta. Like the height of the person and the height of the 2x4 seem to matter a lot. Being able to come at the object at the right angle.
Yeah. And then after we had that, we have the kill shot, which they had 3 swings to cut 6, like, I don't know how to describe them. They're like,
It's like slack lines.
yeah, like really taut strings, but like wider. It's the best way to describe them. And then you put your knife into a tree stub, and you've moved on to the next competition if you're in the top 2 by time. Which we have no idea what the time were for any of the people because they didn't say.
Only 2 people completed it.
Yeah, so 2 people completed it. So we'll get into that. Anyone have any minutia they want to go to about? We can get into it with the competitors probably.
Yeah.
So the first guy we have is Dan. He's British. He has a pale horse sword or an English billhook, I think is what they called it. And it was pretty heavy. So this guy was going, and he was pretty gassed, if I remember correctly. And he gets out via the rope. But he used the right technique in the first obstacle, I guess is like kind of, he set the tone for the whole show. So who knows exactly when he went. Nothing to say really about him. Then we have Joanna. I think that's, how do you pronounce her name? Joanna? No idea, man.
No idea.
Okay.
I don't remember.
She's a Filipino martial artist. She used a Filipino ginunting.
Ginanting?
Yeah, something like that.
They've used some crazy knives. Like,
Yeah. This thing was,
This
well,
was
the
basically a sword, actually.
this one was very like the medium-sized sword, very thin. The first guy was like more of like a chopper type, like something to chop with. So this one was a very not great sword for this at all. Like the first thing took her like 6 minutes because A, she didn't know the right technique, and the sword and her with her strength, she couldn't cut through the 2x4s. So by the time she was cut through all 3 things, she like they literally pulled her from the competition while she was trying to break the like boxes because she was shaking.
she almost cut herself. Like, she missed the
She-
box completely.
Yeah. So they
She
pulled
just
her.
didn't have the stamina for it, to be honest.
I don't think it was stamina. So if you notice, each person was done their whole course in like 5 minutes. She wasn't past the first obstacle in 6 minutes.
But her knife was, well, her sword was really thin. So
No, I know. That's what I'm just saying. Like, I don't think it's just her stamina.
yeah,
no
I think
one
it
had
was
the
her sword
stamina
as well.
No one had the stamina to do in this course for like 8-10 minutes.
Yeah, but she was also mini in comparison to all of them.
I am well aware she's a very small woman and she's trying to do this obstacle course with like an appropriate sized sword for her. But this is not a, hey, let's go like cut people's throats. This is like, hey, let's do this weird knife competition, which, you know, there's just 2 don't combine very well.
Yeah, they didn't combine very well.
I don't know what kind
I
of
was
sword she
rooting
needed.
for her, but so disappointed.
I was rooting for her too,
I mean,
but
she
after
was,
seeing it, I was surprised that they let her on.
yeah, she was just the only girl in a competition of like 11 other guys, I believe.
No, there's only 6.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah, like I'm glad they tried to get some representation, but they should have put someone who could compete a little
just
better.
Don't think that they get a lot of women to like. So like they want the women to come on the show, so they're just pulling people they get. Like there's not like I don't think they get a lot of choice, and
Yeah, you're
there's
probably
like
right.
multiple episodes of the season, so you're not just like, oh, we want a woman for like the season. They want like a woman per episode, so they might have a woman per episode, and like some might be like more better geared and better fit to do something like this. But she was unprepared, mainly sword wise, technique, like just unprepared overall.
Yeah, I it makes me curious because like she seemed energetic, so it was like cool having her on the show. But it makes me curious, like, what do you think your audition is like to get onto Forge and Fire, Knife, or Death?
It seemed like it was like Ninja Warrior, where like you had to submit a video or something and show like, oh, this is how I practice. This is what I'm going to be using. Because like they showed like some clips of some people like just practicing in their backyard, like or making their blades and stuff.
I definitely don't think it had anything to do with technique, or at least they're not testing for specific technique, because there were a lot of competitors who didn't have super good technique. I mean, I
Yeah.
just don't think that was all that they were looking at. They were probably looking at like how good they cut whatever they auditioned with. If
I-
it looked like they had good form.
I think that it's definitely just like a tape.
Yeah.
You send in and you cut like, hey, you've been selected, come on down. And like, I don't know, maybe they'll cut some people as they get down and be like, no, sorry. But in general, I think they're just going to film everyone that they bring down.
Probably. You know what? The internet corner might come of use here. I'll be back.
All right, Noah. So after her, we got James. He was a sword fighter. He was using a 64-inch Tiberian Montante, which is massive.
It was a long sword.
This is like, he's almost as tall as he is, saying how tall this guy is.
His
He's a
audition video,
tall guy.
his audition video showed him like practicing in the backyard, and like he was really good then. He was also really good throughout the course.
I think
Like-
he had the best technique, actually.
Yeah, he,
He
like he was
definitely showed him in like competitions with swords. Like it was him like with a sword and like cutting 3 pineapples or something in some sort of competition setting. So he's the most qualified, I felt, for this. But he was the one that in the first section just broke the apparatus. Because who the hell cuts a 2x4? Like, this is just ridiculous. And he's got like this massive sword with a lot of power. So like you needed to reserve a little bit to cut the actual 2x4 and not like actually break the apparatus.
Yeah, I don't know what he could have really done either, because like a lot of these things also didn't give him much room to maneuver. So if you want to like get like a nice swing or like try to angle it in such a way, like because it's so big, like you might hit one of the side poles or something.
That's true. He definitely was a little limited in his like he couldn't get full swings sometimes, I don't think.
I think he did really well on box cutter. He went through that pretty quickly. And then really it was most impressive when he was doing
The decapitator.
no, it was
Try it.
trice. Yes. 3 ice. Trice.
Yeah, he did this like upward technique where he like kind of like slashed it like that, right? How would you?
Well,
He basically swang at it forwards and then backwards. Like he basically swung his sword back and forth so that he was getting both sides of the ice, so he could compromise the construction of the ice or the composition of the ice, and so it was easier for the ice to break in the middle, kind of like an iceberg, I guess. He was making an iceberg of the ice.
Yeah, I thought he was really good on the decapitator though. Like he was one of the like proper techniques for cutting the fruit.
It was very straight when he was cutting them.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had also seen a competition video in the beginning of him doing something similar.
Exactly.
So I was like, yeah, he does definitely have some of the best technique
And
from
yet-
all of these competitors.
The fruit ninja wasn't even in a fruit outfit or a ninja outfit.
And he ended up failing at the rope again.
Yeah, the 2-inch rope.
Yeah. It would have been interesting to see one person not make it through so we could see the actual timings of all these people, see who was actually competitive and who wasn't.
Right, because
We don't know. There's also a minutia update, not in the show, but James comes out and he's like going to the first challenge, and Mr. Noah says, I bet this guy watches very strange porn.
Oh, he definitely watches strange porn. Like, so
Just like the most random statement I've ever heard from Mr. Noah Singer.
wow, that is a bold statement. So this guy, he seems like he's very fun to hang out with in bits and pieces. He seems like he's just like very nerdy. And so I think he'd be very intense on very esoteric topics. One of them being LARPing and German sword skills.
This guy's not LARPing, dude. This guy is really out like practicing swords.
Oh, he looked like he was majorly LARPing in his backyard.
yeah, with a real fucking sword. He's
Yeah.
cutting shit.
He looked
Yeah.
like
But
he was
he's-
practicing sword
But he
moves.
was practicing his moves. He's competition sorting.
Yeah. So my thinking is, reading a book by its cover. Just that for a guy being into German sword fighting, really into it, the type of porn he watches, it's going to be some bizarre shit.
I just don't understand. I'm going to let it go because I don't know what to say to it. So let's talk
Good idea.
about our next competitor.
But if you're listening, I forgot his name, please tweet at us and let us know the porn you actually do watch.
James.
James.
The sword fighter. I don't know his last name. We've got Justin is our next competitor. He has a custom chopper. So he made his own sword. It's like a 10-inch or 12-inch chopper. And he makes it all the way through the competition. So as you know, he's one of the examples of like people that get like really gassed really quickly. But apparently you're not timed once you're outside of the like challenges. So like once you've completed the box thing, you can like not go directly to the next challenge, and it's not timed.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know like
Interesting.
if there's a time limit between, but like there's yellow lines that once you like step past it, then like you're in the challenge and the timer starts, and then once you step past it, the timer pauses.
It is a difference between the first and second stage. So I'm not sure. Like, I feel like if people didn't wait long enough to start the like box thing, they were just like really into it.
Yeah.
So they went to one challenge to the next challenge, and the box challenge is really hard.
Yeah,
There's a lot of energy to do the box challenge.
last
Like
season.
they would make. Oh, go on.
Last season people did that with the like the one with the fish. Like that's where people constantly fail. They try to go slash chicken. I got this slash fish. Oh, they just
Yeah.
kept going and they didn't take a rest.
Well, I don't think you can rest in between those two.
Yeah, you can. It's after like the ice thing.
Yeah, I know. I meant between the
Oh.
chicken and the fish.
No. Yeah, you're right.
But like, I feel like a lot of people rested before the ice block challenge. Everyone before the ice blocks seemed well rested and able to like gather the energy to do, because it's you're getting full hard ass swings on these ice blocks. Just like that's what you need.
Minutia on season 1, was it also a salmon they were cutting?
I don't exactly know the type of fish.
Was it a cod?
But I wonder, they had such a challenge in season 1 cutting the fish. I wonder if it's a different fish, and maybe that fish has.
No, they're not lowering the difficulty, Noah. They're
Maybe they're gonna have a crab in season 3.
Oh.
A shell. Ooh.
box cutter gets replaced by crab cutter.
So after Justin, we have Mike. He is a martial artist. He used a machete chopper hybrid sword.
I feel like it was really hyped up because he was like, I teach martial arts, I do all this other stuff, and like there was a preview of him chopping a 2x4, and I was like, oh, and then he got in and like the judges were just railing on him about how bad his technique was.
He definitely had terrible technique.
Yeah.
He did though.
He was so stiff. He like every like ounce of energy put in seemed so strained.
Oh, and he also was the one that was like not breathing.
Yeah.
No. He was breathing. The guy from San Jose was not breathing.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I think
He was better on his breath. I think he needed to be, right? Because he's a big guy.
yeah.
He was definitely a big guy.
Right.
He was using a very thin sword too. Or
Yeah.
a thin knife, like comparatively.
Yeah. He did seem pretty composed with his like kung fu background. Like he tried to bring that in.
yeah.
But on the judges seem like they go polar opposites back and forth.
Dude, they're just like the peanut gallery. And
Yeah.
okay, so we haven't talked about the hosts yet.
Yeah, let's talk about them. I think we need to get into it.
Okay, the main host is Bill Goldberg, former
Oh, yeah.
WWE star.
Star.
Bill Goldberg?
Yeah, Bill Goldberg. That's his name.
His name's Bill?
It's Bill.
Bill.
And to my surprise, he's only 53 years old. Shockingly. I
Did
thought
you
He
just
looks-
look that up?
earlier in the show I did.
He looks fine. Like, he doesn't look old.
He does not
no,
look like
he's
he's
ju-
53.
He's just been around for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
He was
yeah.
in the WCW, like, when he was, like, 19.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He had to be, I guess.
What a long, illustrious career.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the hosts in the show almost, I think in my mind, bring this down a whole other tier. They're so bad.
Terrible.
Yeah.
They're terrible. Not that they have a whole lot to talk about, but I'd rather listen to nothing, to be honest. Like,
So-
they're just like making nonsense statements like, oh, he's gassed. Oh, he doesn't sure if he has enough sword for that. Oh, he can't chop through this. And then they fucking do it. And it's like, and then they just move on. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
So I will say this: the second host is a U.S. Special Forces soldier named Tulam. He is way better at describing some of the things you should be doing, and like season 1 was really helpful. Bill Goldberg is fucking useless. I don't know why they got him. Like, where did he come from?
Facial. Just so people, like, when they're scrolling through Hulu or wherever, she watches on Hulu, you see his face. Oh, that guy? Let's see what shows this guy's in. That's the
Goldberg,
only reason
yeah.
you hired that guy.
And
They
there's-
probably thought he'd be entertaining.
No. He's no Stone Cold.
no.
No.
He's garbage.
I mean, looking at his career past, definitely a motivated guy. He played in the NFL for like 5 years or so, across different teams. Then he went to WCW. He's done a lot of entertainment stuff. He's been an NCIS. You know, he did Family Guy. So, you know, he's a hustler in the vein of The Rock.
Okay,
but
but
just
was he
not
dead?
get to Rock status.
Was he dead in NCIS? Because
This bodybuilder died of an overdose.
I mean, on that note, Brian, you're right. They did go over, like, this guy's using the right technique. This guy's not. That was useful.
Right, but they didn't need to do it every single time either, because like in the first one, it's always just bad technique. You got to be going at an angle. Like, okay, cool. You don't need to say this like a billion times.
They definitely repeat themselves so often.
they kept talking about angles. Like almost every competitor got a comment about how their angle wasn't right. Like,
And it
we
was
know
like-
their angle's not right after you told us the first 3 times.
Like, yeah, see, they didn't cut the rope. Great. They were at a bad angle. Got it.
The best of the hosts, though, well, really not a host, but like, so 2-time Forge and Fire champion Travis Wirtz is just hanging out backstage, and his only job is to test the knives. Like, he just wants to play Doug Marcaida and say, it can cut, you're cleared.
The thing is, with recent episodes of Forge of Fire, Doug Marcaita's not it.
Wait, really? Like in the latest season?
In like seasons like 5, like he has not been in the episodes I've seen.
Man.
I know he like dips in and out.
And I just don't think they're paying Doug Marcaida anymore. Like, Doug Marcaida wants more money to be on that show, I think.
No, obviously, like he's got the signature phrase.
Yeah, I know. He is the guy. They should pay him the money, but they don't want to.
I'd love to be in those phone calls with an agent and the producers. at Fortune
But he's
Fire.
got nowhere else to go. There's no other show for Doug Marcaida to be.
You're dealing with fucking Doug Makita. Click.
He's gonna go just make swords, dude. He's not gonna be in your stupid show.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly their budget went down because the competitors are getting less money. Now the judges are getting less money. They had to like downgrade.
Doug Makita is still all that money.
Fucking ice people too.
Those ice people.
The ice people. All right, so we got our last competitor, to join the fray. Got Zeke, or what was his name? Like
Zeke. Well,
it was
yeah.
some long name.
It was like
just settled.
Zebediah. it was some real like
Yeah, that's-
backcountry name.
yeah, he's using a hooligan cleaver.
Great name.
So he's using a traditional knife / chopper. I think he should be using for this. Like this is what is this competition is designed for, is like a chopper or a cleaver, like kind of like a medium size, like a longish knife with a lot of like metal, just like heavy, like heavy-ish with a really sharp blade is really what you need for this competition. It is really kind of designed for one kind of knife, but they let so many different like terrible style knives in this thing. It's weird.
You'd be surprised how far some of them can go.
No, I mean the one guy with the giant 64-inch sword definitely could have made it to the end.
Yeah.
But like in general, he had to work really hard at some of those, and he failed miserably at some of them. So like, especially like the one where he had to cut the like fruit. There just wasn't enough room for him to even like set up a proper sword swing.
Yeah.
That giant sword.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I
back
also
to
think when they
Zeke.
did that before, like it was just in a straight line, not even in a round table.
I don't know what season one was.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
Brian.
surprised more of them didn't have swords that were like what we picture like a knight type of sword to be. Like, maybe it's like 2 feet long or so. Like nobody had that.
With a traditional sword.
Like when you think of like a knife fight with like two knights, right? Like imagine.
But I wouldn't consider that a knife fight. That's like a sword fight.
Yes, a sword
So-
fight.
so, like, I see what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Like, no one used a traditional sword. Brian, anyone in season 1 use a traditional
Yeah.
sword? Did they do well?
I don't remember.
Thanks for the minutia, Brian.
Alright, so Zeke, he comes out. He's from East San Jose.
which is apparently the hood, which actually I can attest to it is. If San Jose had to have a hood, it would be East San Jose.
And why is that, May?
Because I'm from San Jose, and my high school is in East San Jose. And like based on his age, he's like, it seemed like he was like early 30s.
Maybe, yeah.
When my brother went to high school, they were like drive-by shootings. So I'm like, yeah, that was pretty bad back then. Now it's just nice.
Like
They've just got money. They've got all that Google money.
there's like a Chipotle there.
Actually, there is a Chipotle there.
Oh, nice.
That's
There's
how
a lot
you.
of
That's
stuff
how you
there
know it's
now.
nice.
They've made it.
So spoiler: Zeke is the other competitor that completes the whole thing, but he looks like he's the one that's prepared the most. He like seems to have made some sort of knife or death things in his backyard. He like made this sword or this knife for this competition and tested it, broke it, reforged it, and like he is ready. However, as he goes through this competition, he is winded. No one had any cardio for this at all. It seems like it's probably one of those things like where I like watch a boxer in a boxing match and I'm like, man, they're just like hitting each other for like 30 seconds. Why are they so winded? But like, I can imagine hitting other people for 30 seconds, not trying to get hit is super exhausting. So I can imagine that this is a similar thing, but it's like, it's kind of hard to see when this guy's out there for 3 minutes and swinging his sword and he's just like barely catching his breath.
Oh, I mean, it's definitely hard.
It's pretty high intensity. I mean, cutting these like 2x4 blocks that aren't like sitting still. I mean, most people won't have an apparatus that's similar to the ones that they have here where it's just kind of swinging. So that's pretty hard. And then those boxes were really, like the boxes and the 2x4s are really tough starters.
Oh yeah, yeah. But Zeke came through. Like I think not great cardio. You could see he had points where he just was not breathing. Where it's like, bro, breathe. But I don't know if it was his force or his technique, but he chopped through the ice box with one hit, which was extremely impressive.
His sword was almost specifically designed for ice blocks, it seems. Like, it had, like, a very wide, like, it went very thin, obviously, to, like, very wide. And it was pretty heavy, which is exactly what you want if you want to chop through ice.
Got it.
Because you want something that will just pry it apart. And, like, ice isn't, like, not going to resist you very much like like a piece of wood will. So like once you get it in there, you'll be able to just like pry it apart, which is what happened. As long as you provide enough force, which I'm sure the like 95 women wouldn't be able to provide enough force to get it like to start that way. But like this guy, he got his technique down on ice. He probably did a lot of ice practice.
Oh yeah, he's probably typed those ice people.
He's got his own ice people. His ice people have ice people.
So the judges also said he's ready to get it on. May, are you ready to get it on?
No, because I'm not here to be a homewrecker.
He was married.
He was absolutely married and had like 2 kids. They showed a picture, which is like really interesting because in the other contestants, none of them got a family photo that was shown or anything. But this guy specifically got a family photo.
So we need to do a correction. The other guy that made it to the final had a family photo.
Oh, okay.
Was that the spoiler from them?
Now we know family photo means we're invested.
Yeah, now we know.
All right. So we get to the next challenge. We got Justin and Zeke. They go through Dead Run. So this competition involves, let's just go through. We got Chopper, which they have to cut rotating targets. So similar to challenge 1, but now they're rotating like in a giant circle around them, and there's 4 of them. So you have to cut through like a 2x4 and some other crap.
There was 3 2x4s of wood, and then one like rolled up like carpet type of thing.
Yeah. It didn't seem like they came out super gas out of this one.
No.
I feel like they have a better idea of how to do it now than they did before. Then we've got Ball Blaster.
So hard.
It's such a good name, Ball Blaster. So they had like this crazy contraption where they had like it's kind of like reverse skee ball, where the ball just kind of comes down like this ramp, and they had to cut it in half as it came down this ramp. There was 9 of them. If they missed one, there was a time penalty. So
Both started out like in a chopping motion straight down. And then Justin got smarter and started chopping sideways.
yeah,
But Zeke never figured that one out.
but they both had like 5 or 6 penalties. 'cause
Yeah, they
they're
both did
it's
really badly on that
a lot
one.
of these challenges were so hard just because like there's no practice. It's not like it's like the first time playing darts and you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And it's like that through all of these.
Yeah, and to give you some visualization, like the balls they're trying to cut are probably like in large grapefruits, and they're coming down fast. Like, so imagine trying to hit a big grapefruit with a sword. Very hard.
Yeah. So then after we've got Ball Blaster, we've got Flying Target, which this is another crazy contraption.
These things are just flying at
These
you.
This
are
is comical.
Literal
these are very Rube Goldberg-esque devices.
Yeah.
So they have, so there's 3 of these. So there's like a piece of meat connected to a wire. So they have to cut the wire, which will trigger the meat to fall towards you on like a pendulum. Then you cut that meat in half, and the meat needs to land in a specific 45-degree angle grill for it to count.
And for it to cook.
So
The grill is the best part of all of this.
So there's 3 of them. So they have to cut the wire. This thing comes down. They have to cut the meat, and then the meat needs to land on this platform. And it's like none of them did it anytime. It's so hard to do without looking at it.
They lead you
We're
to
out.
believe that like this will actually happen during the preview, but then you're just so disappointed when none of the meat cooks.
They're very disappointed.
Everyone, I have a restaurant idea to compete with hibachi grills.
I'm on.
So then we have Free Fall. So another Rube Goldberg-esque device.
And this is straight out of Fruit Ninja.
Yeah. So literally out of Fruit Ninja. So they have like, imagine like 8 stations, like 4x2. So like each station, like a piece of fruit is falling. So they have like a watermelon and a cantaloupe. So like they'll say go, and then this watermelon will start falling. And then 1 second later, whether you're ready or not, the cantaloupe falls like right next to it. And then you have to walk up to the next set of 2, and the watermelon just falls the next second. Then the next second, the cantaloupe falls. So
So-
if you're not ready, it's just like not going to work. And you have to cut it in half, or you get a penalty.
So there's actually a light that shines to say it's coming.
Okay.
I did notice that. It was really hard to see it in the show because it's not obvious that there's a light that's shining to say I'm dropping now. But probably like half a millisecond before, the light shines and then it drops. And you're like, oh shit.
Like it definitely didn't take Justin long to figure out what's going on. He did pretty well, but Zeke, he didn't get it at all. It was like at the end, he was like looking so confused, like I don't get it, and he missed like all of them.
Yeah.
He probably chopped maybe
He got like
3 out of 10.
Yes, 3 out of whatever. After that, we've got Fire and Ice, which our ice people are back, but bigger.
It was a 400-pound block of
And
ice?
suspended in
I don't think it
air.
was 400 pounds.
No.
It was a big block of ice.
Yeah.
though.
It was big.
It
So-
was like if you laid down, it would be the size of 75% of your body height.
Yeah.
But like again, Zeke just demolished this thing.
Yeah, one hit, right?
I don't
No,
think
it
it
was
was one.
3 hits.
It's
But
3 hits.
But
yeah.
the
Like,
even the
pretty much
announcers were like,
chopped it 3 times, and I was like so shocked because I mean, so Justin had gone first, and Justin has been chopping at this piece of ice for a little bit.
yeah. And then why is it fire, May?
Oh, because after the ice is broken into 2, the ice pieces are supposed to swing outwards into these fire pits, which was so dumb because I was like, what?
No sense.
I think it just triggered the fire, like a fire kind of explosion, but it was dumb. It was dumb to call it fire and ice.
Very
They also had a big fire budget.
It's also really weird because it's like you would never think that ice would trigger fire.
No.
It just doesn't work like that.
Then we've got Crash Landing, which is another weird device where they have like this giant like 45-degree like platform that like they throw. It's kind of like if you've seen Home Alone and those like the paint cans he throws off the thing and hits them in the head. Similar to that, but it's like just like water bottles that they have to cut in half as they come down.
And one chicken. Don't forget.
No, it's like a bag of like peas or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
and a bag of peas. Yeah.
Yeah. It was dumb.
Yeah.
It was the same as the meat challenge, except you didn't have to land it on a grill.
Right.
I think it was a little higher. Like I think that's what made it a little more difficult.
Mm.
And then they had to cut through a big box, which was, I mean, or just get the contents of a big box like on.
No,
the
they
floor.
did the ball out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the previous challenge, they actually had to cut it all the way through.
Right.
This time they didn't actually have to cut it all the way through. Then they had Firestorm, which I believe is just cutting down like the 2 ropes, let down a
Oh, that was
set of
actually a challenge?
stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, a set of stairs, and then cutting like some sort of rope at the end,
Yeah.
And that would stop the timer.
and that would stop the timer.
It's interesting. Like those last 3 cuts, it made it seem like there was like no challenge to it. They're like, fuck, fuck, fuck.
No, it's symbolic, man. It's like, oh, you made it through all this. Let me make my way up this thing, chop it, and done.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I didn't realize it was a challenge. I thought.
Yeah, when they announced like the challenge like things each face, this was the name of that one.
Got it.
I agree with you. I was like, oh, is that Final Storm? Is that really a thing? I was
It's
like, oh yeah, I guess it is.
Definitely, like, you know, a showpiece because at the end of, well, Justin didn't do it because he was probably too tired, but Zeke, like, made some victory chop noise.
He just didn't have any energy. He was getting some energy to chop that. Also, Brian informed us you can't run up these stairs. You can't run with knives.
Yeah. So last season, like somebody ran up to the end of challenge 1 to like put their sword on the block, but then like they got like a penalty or disqualified because like, yeah, you can't run. That's against the rules. And it's very obvious that like you shouldn't be running with a knife, but I get it. Like that's why everybody's like walking between stuff. Like you would think that you want to go fast, but no.
Can't go that fast.
Everyone, practice your quick walk. Do it in a pool and you'll be really good.
All right, so now we have Justin. He had 11 penalties throughout the competition, mostly from the pinball, the ball challenge or
Ski-
whatever.
reverse
The
ski ball.
reverse ski ball. And then we got Zeke. He had 15 penalties, which you seem like Zeke would have like Justin won. He's got 11. Zeke had an extra 2 minutes added to his time because he had four more penalties. Nope. Zeke wins with a time of 8 minutes 9 seconds, and Justin had 9 minutes 26 seconds.
I'm pretty sure this is because of all the time spent on that ice block and on the 2x4s because Zeke just had more power, I guess. Like, his knife was just better suited for chopping through things, to be honest.
Yeah.
I could see that. It's hard to gauge because it's not like we get to see a time lapse of this stuff. It's like, and they don't always show the timer. They were like, you never see a timer, really.
No.
At least I couldn't
You really
really
don't. I kind of just made that conclusion based on how long it took them to chop those, like how many chops they had to take.
Right. No,
Yeah.
They definitely try to lead you that way.
I mean, they tried to. They're trying to make it so you don't know,
Yeah.
which is like, doesn't really make for all that great TV to like get you to stay that last commercial break
Yeah.
when we're not watching commercials. So like, you know, I get it.
I get you. Yeah, so to bring it back to the beginning, the auditions. The internet is pretty dry on how to audition for the show. The one contestant that spoke about their experience on the show, the producers reached out to him and asked him to be on the show. But we may be in luck. So the rumor mill is that season 3 should come out later this year. And so we'll just have to keep our eyes out and maybe get on the show.
All
And
right,
get a
Brian.
knife.
Brian, get your tape ready, dude.
Ooh,
Yeah.
this is gonna be rough.
Brian,
do I
you're
have to
definitely the best one for this.
do we have? Can I forge my own blade? Like, can I at least do that?
You can do it in
Can
Soto.
you please do it?
Yeah,
That
that might lengthen the time, before I get on the show, but it's gonna be worth it.
You need to find your own forging environment. You may have to move outside Seattle so
No.
you can
No.
I forged a knife in Soto.
yeah, but
Just go to one of those glass blowing places and be like, yo.
yo, it's gonna cost them a lot of money to go to these studios to forge.
Yeah,
a
but
knife.
think about the possibilities.
Brian can give them the free pub. Just be like, hey, I'm gonna go on the show. I gotcha.
Ooh.
And he just wears their logo on his gear.
And his little practice video will all be up around their space. They'll be like, oh, where's that?
I like it. You want to
Brian,
be?
you just got to hook them up with those Posabit discounts.
Just
Oh,
be like,
yeah.
hashtag ad on your Instagram.
All right, well, that was the end of the episode. So Zeke won, and he moves on to the championship bout, which will be the end of the season, right, Brian?
Yeah.
I have a question about that, Brian.
'Kay.
So, we watched season 2, episode 2, because season 2, episode 1, well, you watched season 1, so one new episode for you. And season 2, episode 1 was an All Stars thing. What,
Yeah, how do you have so many All Stars out of season 1? Let me tell you something. There weren't that many. There were a lot of people that failed. There were a lot of people who where it was oh, one person completed this, and now we need to find the person who made it the farthest in the least amount of time. No, it was crazy. And then of course people trained for season 2, and then they still failed. So
Wait,
But
that
I've-
leads me to a very important question. You know that guy in the beginning who was checking the knives? They called him
Yeah.
a 2-time champion.
of Forge and Fire, the main show. So
hence the doppelganger, May.
I was like, how could he be a 2-time champion if there's only been
No.
one
It-
season?
he wanted to be Doug Marcaida, and he made his own spinoff, or History Channel gave him his own spinoff. I don't know what it was.
Yeah. But I have a question, more in terms of, is the winner of the All Stars in the end, competition?
I don't think so. I think they just get more money.
Think so?
I didn't see that one though.
We'll
I
have
didn't start
to,
season 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else got any minutia? We move to ratings. All right. So May, this is how the ratings work. So you give a top third, middle third, or bottom third. So these are stack rankings in terms of other reality shows. Really, we're not asking you to rank this show against Game of Thrones. We're asking you to rank it against The Circle and Kim Kardashian and
It's
you
called
know,
Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
whatever. We've done 150 of these things. We have not watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
And let's keep it that way.
I can't imagine that's gonna be forever, Brian. But
New stuff's coming out every week, man.
It's true.
Like,
we don't have to, but I can imagine us doing it someday. So watch it.
okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put this in the middle. I think this suffers from bad hosts, which I think almost single-handedly put it in the middle, but also the fact that these competition shows can get kind of stale because like each episode is the same thing with new people, and the people just like I could care less. So it's really just seeing like the like competition layouts and stuff is kind of fun. But I think this could definitely survive a couple episodes. But seasons, like I don't know. So it gets the middle third. What do you got, Brian?
I'm gonna put it in the middle. I was initially like more on board with like putting it in the top, but I think that the announcers really annoyed me this time. I kind of like it simply because it's just Ninja Warrior. Like it's everything you liked about Forge and Fire. Like just seeing like the knives being like used, and now people get to compete with it.
What do you got, Noah?
I'm putting it at bottom of the top. Yes, one of the few rare top shows for me. I put it in the top because it's very enjoyable to watch. There's none of the repetitive nonsense that you sometimes get with reality shows. Like it keeps on moving. The reason why it's not further up for the aforementioned reasons, the hosts, as nice of people they seem to be, they are not meant to be hosts of the show. And I think actually they could do more with the knife, like talking segment. The guy doesn't really say much beyond like, I like it. So it'd be interesting to be like, hey, like tell us some more interesting details besides like saying he likes it.
You get the gist, May?
Yes, absolutely. I would actually put this in the lower middle for me. And I feel that way because, one, the announcers, I feel like they were just too repetitive. And secondly, I don't know if I liked all the challenges that much. They all felt like they're all geared towards stamina and strength. And I felt like they could have mixed it up a little bit more with more precision or like other things that could have used more techniques. So it's not like everyone's just kind of carved through one thing, like, 2x4 or a block of ice or a box.
Yeah, because like they really backloaded like the agility style stuff into like after you've winded yourself and you're just like, I can't even concentrate on this. Now I have to hit this rolling thing.
Right.
That's true. Like the rope thing is definitely the first thing that were like, you have to do this right. Your knife has to be the right like sharpness to do it. And most people have fell there.
I liked the decapitator too. I thought that was a good, test of skill, but that was it.
It's similar to how Ninja Warrior, where they have like, it's all like upper body strength generally and like no lower body strength.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could skip leg day and be fine in that competition.
I could see it reminds me of the difference between like American Gladiator versus American Ninja Warrior, right? American Gladiator have like 2 or 3 contestants, I forget, right? And they compete like in individual segments that like that test different skills. Where Ninja Warrior in this is just like all at once, right? So I think you could have like a little different type of show. We have like pick 2 or 3, right? And they go around and do the different things. To your point, precision, strength, whatever else.
I do think it's an enjoyable show. I think I would probably get tired of it in maybe 5 episodes. I'm not really sure. I don't really watch a lot of reality TV to begin with, so it's kind of like I'm rating it against like 5 shows in all, probably in my head.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So Brian and I have been continuing watching The Circle, as we talked about last week. Brian and I have watched to the end. Some people in this room have not, so we won't go into spoilers.
I haven't watched any episodes.
But
I'm glad I said nothing.
I'm still enjoying it. I think it really ended quite well. I'm not sure that I'd watch, like, I'll give another season a shot, but like the people on the show are the ones that made the show. So like the different people, I'm not sure.
Is there a season 2?
I'm sure there's going to be.
Okay.
So Netflix is actually making it for like different countries. obviously, like, this came from like the UK, and Netflix brought it here. I do kind of want to watch the UK one to see if there was a different strategy employed for that season.
I can't imagine. Every UK show we've watched has been like terrible.
What?
But see, I can imagine them being more assholes.
Well, I did like the Roman show. That was kind of fun, but
What was the Roman show?
we watched some Roman UK show. I forget the name of it, but I'm sure you'd be able to find it on our backlog.
There are
somewhere.
only 2 UK shows I've ever seen. Both were very enjoyable. You know, those would be The Great British Bake Off and Love Island.
Love Island's
Very far off from each other.
big. Yes.
Love Island 50 episodes, May. Did you watch all 50 episodes?
Of the first season, yeah. Well,
Wow.
not the first season. It was, I don't know which one. It was on Hulu. It's not the first one, though.
Naked Attraction. That's a solid one. You should watch that. Yeah, we've watched quite a bit.
Yeah.
X on the Beach. We watched X on the Beach.
There's obviously Top Gear. Very big.
Anyone else have any other shows they want to plug?
I'll plug The Loudest Voice. So, thankfully, my parents signed up for Showtime. So I have access to Showtime. And they have a limited series called The Loudest Voice. It goes over Roger Ailes and his sexual harassment, abuse, violence, whatever you want to call it, against his employees and the culture he created and just how disgusting of a person he is. Amazing acting, great stories. Russell Crowe plays Roger Ailes. Does a great job. So highly recommend if you can borrow someone's credentials for Showtime.
Not
Hey,
worth paying
Noah.
yourself, but
You can buy. Honestly, if you do the free week trial, you can easily binge a show in a week. I think it's like 6 episodes, and it's so enjoyable to watch that you can get right through it.
yeah. So I signed up for CBS All Access recently
Ooh,
because Star Trek Picard starts when the show goes out. So, but I have seen Star Trek Discovery season 1, so I was watching season 2. Season 2, Star Trek Discovery is great. It's phenomenal. It's like Star Trek modern day, like with modern storytelling techniques. It is really good.
So
I recommend.
for those of us that really don't know a damn thing about Star Trek, it's just like the Star Trek that we've seen with like William Shatner, or I can't say seen but know of, just like in like a 24 setting.
No. So Star Trek Discovery is more like a serial, like we have this one ongoing storyline for a whole season that's like was really compelling. Like it was really fun, and I think it was told really well, it was acted really well, like set design, like everything about it is done really well. Whereas like older seasons of Star Trek, so Star Trek, William Shatner, each episode is something different. It is very genre oriented. So like they're telling a classic sci-fi genre story.
Yeah.
Like each week is a different one, and they're not really related to each other. As like Star Trek goes through the years, they started adding more and more serial stories. But Discovery is the one that, like, hey, if you've never seen Star Trek Discovery is the best
Okay.
because it's the most modern show. Whereas, like, how many genre shows have you watched, Noah? Like, there's
Yeah,
no genre shows on TV right now.
Yeah.
There's no like Monster of the Week stories. The only ones like that are like CSI, and you don't watch that. So like, it is definitely very, very much like more of we're telling this compelling, interesting sci-fi story over 12, 15 episodes, which
Interesting.
is I think more compelling to today's audience. Than,
Yeah, I just remember growing up on USA when I'd be watching WWF Raw. They'd always be plugging Star Trek Voyager, I believe was
Yeah.
the title of it.
Voyager's not great
Okay, yeah, it didn't look that good.
comparative to the other Star Treks. It's not good.
Yeah, the whole Star Trek universe just goes so over my head.
I mean, so over the last decade, I've been watching Star Trek. So I am slowly closing down on Enterprise. So I have like,
Which one's that?
So Star Trek, the original series. Then they have Star Trek TNG, which is the Next Generation, the one with Picard, which is the Picard show that's coming up as a sequel essentially to that. Then they had Deep Space Nine. Then they had Voyager. Then they had Enterprise. And all of these shows have like they're 26 episode seasons. They're like multiple seasons.
Okay.
That's why it's taking over a decade to do, because it's like,
I think, do they all connect in some meaningful way or kind of like in stupid ways?
I mean, so there's a continuation of the storyline
Okay.
from like Star Trek to Deep Space Nine. Voyager goes kind of a tangent to its own thing. Then Enterprise does a prequel, which is Enterprise is by far the weakest.
Is there a quick synopsis like Star Wars is the Empire versus the Republic? For Star Trek?
Not really, because Star Wars is like a fantasy story and Star Trek's more sci-fi. They're set like 400 years in the future, and we're more utopian. But we like again, you go through the series and you meet like new alien species that are like causing the like drama of the show. So like Klingons are the first one.
I've heard of that.
And then like you've got like Romulans at some point, and you've got like some other ones as you go further
Trumpers.
down. But like they start dealing with more and more, modern day problems as you get further and further away from the original series, because they're like, there's only so many times you can tell like the same sci-fi genre story. So
Yeah.
you get a little bit deeper into character-based stories and stuff. So that's a very, very high level of Star Trek. You can fight me at Hoop of the Swan.
Yeah. I'll give a plug for one show that I finally got to watch. I've been wanting to. So the New York Times has a show called The Weekly on Hulu, where they talk about in depth one article that they wrote that week. Right, because the articles they write, like their investigative reporting, can take months, if not a year plus, right, to write. They covered all the Democratic candidates and how they got to their it's not recommendation, I forgot what they actually call it, but who they're backing. And I think that was kind of interesting just to get the behind the scenes on how the New York Times has a very unscientific approach to who they back as far as political candidates, and see kind of like how I don't know, just odd. I put so much weight in the New York Times, and it's like it made me lose a little bit of faith in how they're choosing people they back.
Dang. Wait, so what was the name of that? I gotta watch that.
The show's called The Weekly. Yeah, it's on Hulu. I haven't watched other episodes, but they promote it on the New York Times website. So like I've seen that. Then one of the podcasts I listen to, they also promote it. And it's not The Daily. I don't listen to that one, but yeah,
The Daily.
yeah. Well, that's a pretty popular podcast.
The Daily?
The Daily from the New York
Yeah, I
Times.
used to listen to it a lot.
It sounds very British. The Daily.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually one of the they like ever since they started, it's been like super popular. Definitely like top 20 podcast.
It definitely goes deep into like one topic of the day. It's pretty good. I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah, they do a great job on that.
All right. Well, on that note, fight me at Hoop at the Son. You can find us on Facebook.com/Hoop at the Son. You can email us questions and suggestions at hoopattheson@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next time.
We are going to test our volume and then test our excited volume